Alright, so again, we're going to be starting with easy. So when we look at this equation, y equals negative 3x plus 5, we first need to find the what? The y-intercept is going to be the easiest thing, but you're identifying the slope and the y-intercept, but we're always going to start with the y-intercept. The y-intercept is what? The 5, okay? And that is the point that we are putting on the y-axis. So the y-axis, yes, y for yes, your head goes up and down, so does that y-axis. So we're putting a point at the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if you don't feel like you need to graph this particular equation, then don't graph this one. You can just pay attention to it. Maybe you want to hold off until we get to the more complicated ones. That's going to be your choice. These are your notes. What is the slope in this one? Negative 3. And whenever it's written not as a fraction, we want to make it as to a fraction. So it's going to be negative 3 over 1. And what directions is that telling you? Down and right. Down and right. So some people were going left on Friday and it totally messed them up. So down right or up right, okay? So I'm going to go down 3 and right 1. And that's going to make that line. Now if you're doing this on IXL, you only need the 2 points, so it's not even a big issue. Okay? Alright, let's do another semi-easy one. What is the slope in this one? 1 over 2, and the y-intercept is negative 3. So again, graphing your y-intercept first, going down to negative 3, putting a point, and then your slope is 1/2. What directions is that? Up. It's either going to be upright or downright. Upright or downright? Right. Upright or downright? Okay. Up 1, right 2. And then that would give you your line on IXL. We don't have to worry about making straight lines right now. IXL is going to be making those lines for us. Okay? All right, let's get into some medium level problems now that we reviewed that. So in this problem, the little bit harder part of this is what is the slope in this one? 1. So remember the slope is located between the equal sign and the x, and since nothing is there, there's really a 1. So 1 is like 1 over 1. So that would be up 1, right 1. And we also need the y-intercept, which is 2. So we're going to put a point at the 2, and then we're going to go up 1, right 1. And that would be our line. Another medium level problem. There's nothing behind the x, so this messed up some people. What is the slope? Negative 4. This was the hard part. What is the y-intercept? 0. Because there's nothing, this is like, they could rewrite this as y equals negative 4x plus 0, but that's not really simplified. That's why that 0 is gone. You don't see a y-intercept. So when the y-intercept is 0, well, that's just 0 on the y-axis, which is right at the origin. Okay, so there's your y-intercept. Your slope is negative 4, which would be negative 4 over 1, down right. So down 4, right 1. And there it is. Any questions about that one? All right, we're getting ready to get to the hard level ones. The hard level I still have in slope-intercept form, but they're more complicated than what we've had so far. So I would think, if I had to guess, that most people are okay with the easy and the medium level problems, yes? Any questions so far? Okay. Because you all didn't think you had questions Friday, and then, oh, we did have questions, didn't we? Yes, we did. Alright, so in this one right here, what is the slope? 1. Again, if you don't see anything between the equal sign and the x, there's really a 1 here. There's nothing after x, that means the y-intercept is 0. So it's kind of like a mixture of the two that we just did. So again, y-intercept goes on there first. That's 0 on the y-axis. The slope is 1, so that's 1 over 1, up 1, right 1. Bless you. So y equals x looks super confusing until you actually think about what is my slope and what is my y-intercept. Y equals negative 2. X is gone. What is the only way that you could get rid of x? multiply x by 0. What does 0 slope look like? Like this, correct? 0 slope. So this is technically y equals 0x minus 2. Okay? But again, 0 times x, that makes it go away. You're left with just y equals negative 2. So if we think about this, our slope is 0 and our y-intercept is negative 2. Okay? So y-intercept is negative 2. Slope is 0. That means you could make a point anywhere you want to, anywhere. Okay? Also what this means is, it doesn't matter what your x value is, your y value is going to be negative 2, no matter what. If your x value is negative 4, your y value is going to be negative 2. If your x value is positive 3, your y value is going to be negative 2. So the y value stays negative 2, and that would be shown using that horizontal line. Some people got those confused, whether y equals negative 2 was a vertical line or y equals negative 2 was a horizontal line. So really be thinking about what that means. And again, it's telling you y-axis. Negative 2 on the y-axis, okay? And we started at negative 2 on the y-axis. Any questions about that one? That one got a lot of people confused. Dawson. Yes. If you don't see the x, that means that the x must have been multiplied by 0, meaning the slope was 0. All right, the other thing that messed people up was when you had x equals 4 and then y was gone. Again, be thinking about your x-axis, okay? Your x-axis. On the x-axis, we're putting a point at 4. So no matter what y is, x is going to be 4. All right, your x value is going to be 4. So that means it could be here, it could be here, it could be here, it could be here, 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 all down through here. What type of slope is that? Undefined slope. Undefined slope. Undefined. But again, be looking for that y equals just a number, it's on the y-axis. X equals and only a number, it's going to be on the x-axis, okay? But for IXL, you're going to have to pick another point in order to make a line. So once you've put that point at 4 on the axis, you have to pick someplace else. And it doesn't matter where else you pick. Just pick anywhere on that where that line would be. Any questions about that? We're getting ready to get into when you have an equation that's not in slope-intercept form. You ready? If you haven't been taking any notes, then this might be where you want to take notes. It looks like a lot of people are paying attention, so some of you, that's all you need to do. We have done it before. It's just been a while. All right, so if it's not in slope-intercept form, you really have two options. You can put it into slope-intercept form, which would be y equals mx plus b. So you'd want the y by itself. It's kind of like solving for a variable, getting y by itself. But your term that has the x would need to be closest to the equal sign. The other option that you have is making a function table. So I'm going to solve them all this first way because that's really the way they want you to be solving it in algebra. But you do have the option of making a function table. Maybe you choose 0, 0 and you plug that in for x and y. And maybe you choose, I don't know, 1, 1 and you plug that in for x and y. And then you solve it from there. I would focus on this one though, okay? This is kind of like last resort, the second choice. So looking at this equation, y is obviously not by itself. The very first thing that we need to do is we need to move this plus 8x over on the right-hand side of our equation. So just like solving an equation, how would I get rid of, thank you. So that's going to leave me with 2y equals negative 8x plus 1. That's a positive 1 there. Notice that my term that has the x is going right by my equal sign. Okay, because that's how we write it. Y equals mx plus b. Also, I'm not combining 1 and 8x because they're not like terms. What's my second step going to be? Dividing by 2. Now, this is where some people mess up. You have two terms over on the right. You have to divide both terms by 2. So that's going to leave you with y. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4x. And then plus 1/2. If you don't like writing it as 1/2, you could write it as 0.5. Whatever makes you happy, right? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. 1/2, 0.5, same thing. Some of you are already worried about how you're going to graph that. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. Slope is negative 4. Y-intercept is 1/2, 0.5. All right, so y-intercept is where it's at on the y-axis. So 1/2 would be between 0 and 1, correct? So you put a point between 0 and 1. You can do that. It's okay. Now, it makes it a little bit more difficult when you're counting. Actually, I don't think you're going to have any like this on IXL, but we're still going to graph it. So this would be down 4, right 1. So when you're counting down 4, this is 4 whole. So you would need to count down 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're still at that halfway mark because we're counting down whole boxes. Does that make sense why I did it that way? From 1/2 to a negative 1/2 to a negative 1.5, negative 2.5, negative 3.5. And then we're counting right 1. So that second point would be at 1, negative 3.5. Emily, question? Okay. Again, you're not going to have any like that on IXL where you're at the halfway point on the y-intercept. You look confused. Alright, so again, we're counting down 4. So we're at a half. So we have to go down to a half here. That's 1. Down to a half here. That's 2. Down to the half 3. Down to the half 4. Because we're counting down 4 whole boxes. But we're at the halfway point, so it's not just right on the nice, pretty box. Or if you think about 0.5 minus 4, that's going to be negative 3.5. Well, that's where that point is, negative 3.5. Maybe you think of it that way. Main thing is focusing on writing it as a y equals mx plus b. All right, what about this one? What am I going to do to make this into the correct form? What? Plus 2x. It's okay. Should I write 1 plus 2x or 2x plus 1? And now it's a nice equation that you could graph. Graph your 1 up to right 1. Easy, right, on that one? I'm not going to worry about graphing if you don't need me to. Let's do this last one. Let's do this last one. First step. Nope. See, that's what you get for being in a hurry. You mess up. So you get 3y equals 2x plus 9. Last step. Remember, both of those terms over here get divided by 3, not just one of them. So you get y equals 2/3 x plus 3. So graph your 3 on your y-axis up to right 3. Good? Okay, so what you worked on Friday, back to that, you worked on 8th grade AA2. Now, I actually said 60 because at 60 on mine it turned into the equations that you had to rewrite, and I didn't want you to do it. Well, new day is 80.